Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Ghettofabulous Kings of War. It's been a while. I think my last report was from a battle in April. So, once again, I'm a little behind on things, but hopefully today's pickup game, in fact, it's a twofer, although it's only one report this time, but I'll have another video out soon for the other battle we did this day. 2,300 point pickup game. So, I actually was in a local tournament in, I think it was August, maybe September. I don't know, not too long ago, and I was a little salty. I hadn't played for a while. It was kind of I should go and support the local event, which I was looking forward to. It's fun, but I kind of had lost track of time, so I was kind of surprised. So I just kind of threw a list together. Hadn't played since that April battle report. I didn't have any crazy expectations of winning or anything, but I'm a fairly competitive player. I went up against a few pretty good lists, pretty tough lists at first, and between being a little rusty and just kind of throwing another goblin army, and again I don't go with the super shooty, super hardcore goblin armies. The terrain it was very restrictive, and I had a lot of cavalry units trying to swarm in and multi-charge. It was miserable. And most of it was my fault. So I decided I need to go in a different direction instead of my usual goblin swarm of garbage army, and maybe get some hammers and something to deal with some of the meta stuff that I have been seeing. Although we'll see with the new book coming out, maybe it won't be very useful. But instead, I went with a nature list, and you can see I'm 10 points short there because I didn't know what little podunk little items to get, so I figured I'd just leave them out and just kind of see what I thought. So I got 4 regiments of earth elementals. Thought process being, hey, these are kind of chaff, but they're also very tough, and they can screen my other guys from shooting, and they can absorb a lot of shooting. I've got 3 hordes of fire elementals. Hey, they hit fairly hard, a little harder than my trolls I normally take with their vicious, and they would benefit well from Surge, which I'm not at all familiar with. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of it, but I've never really used a Surge army. And then 2 hordes of Centaur Striders. Those guys, I think they're 21, 23 nerve, speed 8, 24 attacks, hitting on 3s with Crush 1, Thunderous 1, and Pathfinder. And they each have a Frenzied Otter, so they can, when they pop that, they get vicious on 3 dice. So I can reroll 3 ones. Those guys hit pretty hard. They can kill just about anything on one turn. And even though in defense 4, 21, 23 nerve is pretty tough to shift. They're also like 275 points, so they're also more expensive than most things I take. I took the avatar of, why is there a whiz with weakness on there? There is no whiz with weakness. That must be left over from me recycling a goblin list. I have the avatar of the Green Lady, 2 unicorns, both with healing, and the Gladewalker Druid with the Tome of Darkness that bumps it up to Surge 11 off its base Surge 8, and then the Ring of Harmony, which lets it basically cast Surge twice a turn. And it has Elite, basically, when it's casting Surge on elementals, since there's not an elemental nearby. So, in some ways, quite a bit of Surge. We'll see if that's going to be useful or not. So, pretty low unit strength, or pretty low drop number. So, again, certainly compared to what I'm used to. I think decent unit strength. And my first battle was against Empire of Dust. In fact, a player from the tournament who was playing a very similar list to what he had at the tournament. And this was one of my my first 2 games. I was super salty. They were both pretty hard armies. I got crushed pretty badly. And then after I kind of readjusted my expectations and kind of went with it, I think this might have been my 3rd or 4th game. I was a little better, thankfully. Empire of Dust. A horde of revenants with the brew of sharpness, I think. So I think they're defense 4, crush 1, hitting on 3s. 2 hordes of enslaved guardians. In the previous game, he only had 1. 2 troops of skeleton warriors, 2 regiments of scavengers, so a decent amount of chaff there. 2 regiments of mummies, a troop of chariots. The last time he also had like a horde, maybe, of chariots or a regiment. I don't know. He had a larger group of chariots instead of the second enslaved guardians list or unit. Monolith, Soul Snare, Idol, Civic Ray, I think, yeah, and a Revenant champion with Surge 5. So a little less unit strength and even fewer drops than mine. 13, 14. Why does it say 11 drops? There's more than 11. I don't know. Don't trust my numbers. I can't even use the excuse I was drinking or anything at the time. I just can't count. I was like under my breath, slowly counting. Wait a minute, it doesn't look like it's 11. Whatever, it's close. So, battlefield. As my notes there on the left say, kind of dense in the middle of the board, and the 2 deployment zones are really clear, which is a little weird. Kind of like at the tournament, actually, those 2 pieces of impassable terrain along the midline. For me, at least for a lot of the armies I play, it's the worst because I usually have bigger armies or armies that want to multi-charge and swarm. I can't really normally grind out on a small front. That's not what I want. So thankfully in this one, the 2 pieces of impassable terrain are fairly small. And the tournament, my first battle, the house on the left would be like 3 times as wide. It was huge. And it really narrowed the front quite a bit. I think if I get to pick sides, I will pick the bottom side. I have Pathfinder on everything, which is helpful, but I have a pretty hard-hitting cavalry unit, and if I can stick them on that hill, suddenly they basically have Thunder's 3, well, Thunder's 2 and Crushing 1 on their initial charge. They're wounding pretty much anything on 2s. With 24 attacks being on 3s. I mean, they should be able to wipe out anything, just about. Maybe not the Revenant Horde, but just about anything else. So I think if I get it, that's where I'm going to go for, because otherwise it's not too much different. I mean, the only other hill is on the far right side there, and it's not really going to be useful for charging off of, at least to the middle of the board. The scenario is also push, which is of interest because you kind of have to look for angles and where you're going to move. My game plan is to try to move up one of the flanks, and I guess that's the next slide here, so we'll talk about it. I assume, based off our previous game and just his list in general, he's going to deploy in the center with a very tight formation and then have his 1 chariot unit and a couple maybe scavengers or something with it on one flank, and the other flank will be pretty much open. So I think I will keep an Earth Elemental Regiment till later in the deployment phase, see which flank he's deploying towards, and then stick that Earth Elemental Regiment on the opposite flank and give it my 1, well, whatever push tokens I get. We ended up rolling 1. So I will hopefully get that token to the other side. They'll give me 2 points. And then, if it's a grind in the middle, as long as I keep his token on his side and make sure no one, at worst, has the middle token, I'll win. So if I grab the middle token, that's fine. But if I don't and just make sure no one gets it and force his token to stay on his side because it's just a grind fest on that narrow front between my defense 6 things and his undead, that's fine. In theory. So deployment, as you can see, basically went as I expected. This is a new army I'm working, so there's some units in progress here. I'm using my Goblin Fleabag Riders as my centaurs, so please forgive me for a little bit of proxying. So I don't know if no. So let me talk through a little bit of his deployment here. He's got a little troop of skeletons with a horde of the enslaved guardians in the back. He's got his monolith, and he put his 1 token with the monolith. I believe these are mummies. His idol, another regiment of mummies, the soul snare, another troop of skeletons. I took the picture right before he finished his deployment, so this is his second group of enslaved guardians, which went back here somewhere. his horde of revenants, the troop of chariots, and then a group of scavengers. I think his other group of scavengers is back. Yeah, I think you can see them flying here. And then for me, just as I had planned, I've got the earth elementals here. My one horde of cav right by the hill, so I can move up to it. Avatar of the Green Lady, a unicorn, earth. I wasn't quite sure where to put the third group of earth elementals. I wanted to have some of my fire ones up front so I could hit things. So 3 regiments here, 2 fire elemental hordes here. This one here, theoretically, I wanted him to put more on this side. Realistically, I don't want to fight over here. I want this to stand off. I want these elementals to start moving forward and shift to the middle. Because I just want this, if I can get my horde and all this stuff out of the fight for most of the fight, that's a win for me. Again, I just want to keep the center token here from being captured by anybody. And it's kind of good that his monolith is carrying his token because it's in the back of his line. So he has to push even further through this narrow frontage. So I've got a lot of beef here, and we're just going to heal and grind and just try to keep his stuff on his side. Anything else in my notes? Nope. I think it's about right. All right, so turn 1. I think he won roll for first turn. He took it. And no big surprise, he moves up with everything, as you would expect. And I think the Soul Snare is probably out of range, despite my dice here showing my front edge. For me, so since I can't move the double, since I can't march, it doesn't really matter if I turn a little bit. So actually, I moved forward and turned to face over here. I thought, if he charges in, I suppose, maybe with these guys, or tries to fly over and come into here, I wouldn't mind having the earth elementals charge and move even further, and this will help block up so he can't flank and get behind me. So these guys turned a little bit to face the center, but realistically they can just turn and start moving north again. Up onto the hill, everything else up here moves. I kept these guys back. Maybe I should have pushed them forward, but these are the ones I'm most worried about. This troop of chariots only has like 8 attacks, and these scavengers don't hit very hard either. So I want to stagger these guys, and I don't want to force a fight any earlier than I have to. I want this to take as many turns as possible. So there's no reason to move forward and force the issue. I think these fire elementals may have moved up a tiny bit, but not much. And that was it. Top of 2, again, no big surprise, but mostly advancing. These scavengers over here move to the side a little bit to work some angles, get out of the way. This horde is so big, it's going to be hard to fit him anywhere. You can see he has cooperated, thankfully, and he's kind of hanging back as well. He's in range to charge with the flyers, but out of range for me to charge or for the chariots to charge. I think, well, these guys might be in range. I think he might want me to charge here, hindered, and then just get obliterated, which of course I'm not going to do. So I'm happy to wait. I say I'm happy to wait as I charge 4 on next turn. So this is getting close already, so I figured I'd go for it. So we charge in. These guys don't charge, but they move forward just to kind of block things up. I think these guys actually did charge to idle. Not that I'm planning on killing them or anything, but just to move up further. And we did kill this troop of skeletons, and we did a handful of wounds to the mummies here. So you can see, yep, just kind of killed stuff, got in the way. I picked up this token when I ended on it. I probably shouldn't have. I mean, these guys are not meant to keep it. And if he kills this unit, he can automatically take the token, as opposed to me leaving it on the ground here, and he has to move on top of it and pick it up. So since my goal is not to hold it, I probably shouldn't have picked it up. We'll see if that caused any problems. On turn 3, he moves these scavengers here to charge and just chaff up my cavalry horde. They didn't actually, I don't think they could have fit in to hit these guys, so there wasn't actually much for them to hit. Maybe these guys could have shifted over and they could have combo charged these guys, but either way, he did hold them up, so that means put their 4. What else here? Scavengers. Yep, so because he's not going to be able to kill these earth elementals, and these guys are stuck. He wanted to multi-charge, but they were too close, and he couldn't shift anywhere to fit him in. So he has to start moving around. The monolith starts moving around as well. I think he realizes it's going to take forever to chew through this. And again, he's kind of standing off on the right, and that's fine. These guys can move and be surged to help out over here. You can see this is a flank charge here. If we go back, yeah, he declares the combination charge here, so the mummies slide over, and then these enslaved guardians can take that flank. Unfortunately, and of course that horde does die. I probably should have put the little death sign on him. But other than that, everything survived, including, thankfully, this Earth Elemental Regiment, which gets hit by the idol and by these hindered mummies. Although you can see it took 7 wounds. They've got dash 15 nerve, so I mean an 8 would have killed him. Since this Fire Elemental horde is dead, he takes the token, and now he's overextended, kind of exposed. No wounds in the cav on the left. Yeah, he actually failed to wound me here. I mean, he probably only would have done a couple wounds anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered much, but I guess that's nice. Yep, these guys are dead, and then the chariots over here shot and did a few wounds to my horde. Not a big deal. Bottom of turn 3. Let's see. So elementals on the left. Oh yeah, so you can't see them because the main action is focused on this part of the board, right? But my little earth elemental horde has been slowly chugging around the building here, and actually they're getting to the point where if these guys move forward, they might actually have a flank charge or something on this enslaved guardian unit. So they may be more helpful than just moving the tokens around. Counter charge here. I don't think the center earth elementals charged at all. There's no reason to. I like these guys centered where they are, and I want these guys. I think he has Strider, but if these guys are hindered, that's just less wounds on my horde or my regiment of earth elementals. You can see we healed them down to 1, so that's good. We multi-charge here, so fire elementals in the front, flank charge from the rear group of earth elementals. Counter charge up here, and counter charge a fresh charge into this group of enslaved guardians, and I think I even back up over here. Again, just whatever. If he wants to move forward, that will open up. I mean, eventually, if he moves past this wall, I'll be able to charge these guys, although that's not my real goal. Yep, mostly abandoning the right. That's with, I think this, one of these two, maybe this one, was the fire elementals over here charging forward. So no surprise, we killed these scavengers over here, and we killed the mummies that took the token. So now my earth elementals picked up the token. A little tougher than the fire elementals, so maybe they'll be able to hold it. Again, I don't think these guys attacked. Start of next turn. Ignore revenants on the right. Oh yeah, so this is actually the next turn, beginning of it. He's already moved these guys around, but with these guys coming around, especially, while these guys are tough, I don't know how long I can hold this flank over. And the problem is they can't be surged if they have the token. And they can't move the double, so I can't really like pivot them around and surge them away. They're just too slow. They will get caught, and the rear charge would be bad for these guys. So I have to figure out how to protect this token while sacrificing things to stay alive. We'll see how that goes. All right, now we can acknowledge this move over here. I think he actually walked around and surged a little bit. He charged the scavengers in over here to chaff up these guys, and then he moved the chariot up so they could charge next, which is great. I think this horde can take the charge, kill the scavengers. It'll be a hindered charge from the chariots, and then kill them on the counter charge. So probably not a huge amount of points I'm gaining, but whatever, it's fine. You can see my earth elementals over here. And then he could just back up with the idol, and then because of its small base and everything, he was able to pivot over here and charge into my fire elementals, get a flank charge, so that's great. But it's only going to be, it's a double charge on this one horde of fire elementals, so these guys should be fine. The earth elementals can take a hindered mummy charge. These earth elementals can take a skeleton troop charge in the front, and I'm only using one unit. So if I'm going to start sacrificing things to block up his attack from the right here, this is good. And the end of turn 4. So yeah, fire elementals obviously get wiggity wrecked. And these guys only take 2 wounds, they're fine, no big deal. And yep, these guys are moving around. What happens next? Bottom 4. Snake Eyes aside. Oh, yeah. So, barring a Snake Eyes result somewhere, it's pretty clear, I think, what's going to happen over the next 2 turns. So, I'm putting on my Kreskin hat, or whatever it's called, and foreseeing the future. So, on the left here, I've combo charged the horde and the regiment into this little troop of skeletons. They should die. Then this horde of enslaved guardians will charge, hit the cavalry horde. They're uninjured. These guys will do a lot of wounds, but these guys are 21, 23 nerve, so they should be able to take that, not even get wavered, and then hit back. We're talking probably 10 wounds, 18 attacks hitting on 3s, so 12, wounding on 2s, 10 wounds on a 21-23 unit, so I need 11 to waver, or 12. I mean, it's a bit risky, but it should be doable. And then, between these guys countercharging and a flank charge from these earth elementals, should be able to knock them out. And this, I mean, if I really needed to, this regiment here could charge in as well, but realistically that will probably end up charging the monolith and trying to do some wounds on it. In the center, all right, so the fire elementals and the earth elementals, I don't even think I'd charge the fire elementals in, because I'm trying to block as much as possible, and I'm not going to kill these guys. It doesn't matter. Killing this guy is going to be hard, and it doesn't matter. Instead, I'm just trying to move people around, put characters, individuals, so they can't do overruns to get it, and just block things. So, in the center, these fire elementals will die next turn. He may attack these earth elementals with the idol, but that's all he can hit them with. They can survive that. And then the next turn after that, he may multi-charge with a whole bunch of stuff, but by then it's already top of 4, and he may not be able to get an overrun onto the token. That's all I need. And over here, like we said, I'll kill the scavengers, he'll charge the chariot, I'll kill the chariot, then probably nothing will be in range, but this horde can move forward, and then if there is a turn 7, he'll have a good chance to charge something. These guys, after they kill these enslaved guardians, they can reform and face the middle of the board, and then they have an option to either go for the monolith to try to take that token, or if something over here does have this token, I can charge them. Hopefully they're already injured, and I can take the token back at the very end of the game on the bottom of 7. Sounds good, right? Oh, and then these earth elementals will probably just stand here. They have not been charging these mummies because they're not going to kill the mummies. Their only job is to stand here have the mummies attack them hindered and just hold them up. And they're doing a fine job of it. All right, so bottom of turn 4, we do. Wait, why does it say that? That's kind of weird. Oh, okay. I suppose I'm trying to display what I'm thinking, but I already talked it through, so we'll do it. So he does charge. He does 9 wounds. Again, I'm estimating 10, and that's fine. On the top of 5, we can take 10. He does kill the fire elemental horde with no problem. He actually moved this horde over and then pivoted them and then surged them into the rear, I think. But let's see, hindered flank charge. The idol, they put 7 wounds on the earth elementals, but they're fine. And like I said, these guys are kind of blocked up. They can't get anywhere. The center earth elementals are just chilling because they're doing what they need to. They could back up, I suppose, and try to block this up as well. Maybe I should do that, but I didn't. And over here, the chariots charge in. They're hindered charge. There's a few extra wounds, but again, 21 and 23 nerve, not a big deal. Oh, killed the enslaved guardians with the combo charge I talked about. And again, now my horde has options if this unit somehow gets the token. And I did make a mistake. I tried to move. This is my green lady. This is I can't tell what that is. Looks like my Gladestalker Druid or Gladewalker Druid. I couldn't move it any closer, or maybe I failed to. And then I realized, oh, if he charges into the flank of my Earth Elemental regiments, he'll slide over, and his corner, if he overruns, will actually be lined up where he can actually land on that token. I should have moved a little bit further forward. So that was a mistake. So it is going to be important to have this option to switch and charge either direction. We did kill the chariots over here, no problem, but we're out of range to charge anything. So we'll again have to move forward like I discussed on turn 6, and then if there's turn 7, we'll have an option. And yeah, so the Revenants can overrun now, which is a problem. And we did charge the Monolith, but it's not going to do much to them. They do a combo charge here, like I had expected. And the Guardians, so these guys who are blocked in the back, I mean, they're not going to get in here, and they're not needed to kill anymore. I mean, there's just a regiment of Earth Elementals. So instead, he's pivoted and moved and surged and is trying to get them over here. So if the Monolith dies, he's got a way to pick up that token and rescue him. The bottom of 6, he does kill the Earth Elementals here, which I had anticipated. He does overrun and take the token, which I anticipated, but too late. So that was not part of my foresight, but I do at least have an option here. You can see a flank charge from this unit would be pretty powerful. Yep, he's got the token, so we'll see how that goes. I think the flank charge here is going to be much better than trying to charge this thing and kill it, especially with stuff in the way. So. Bottom of 6. So, I mean, everything's important. I have to kill this unit. And the good thing is, if I do kill it, there's no way, even with 7 wounds, and I probably won't get to heal it. But with 7 wounds, this idol doesn't do that. He's got maybe 9 or 10 attacks hitting on 3s. I mean, he'll do a decent number, but the odds of killing this on a charge is going to be pretty limited, especially with other stuff in the way. So I have to kill this horde. So not only do I charge in with this flank, but I charge in with unicorns as well, and the unicorns will also get in the way. And the avatar of the Green Lady comes in and does, I think, Cloak of Death to put just another wound on him. So I'm just as many wounds as I can to ensure I get this unit to double 1s. And it did go to double 1s. I took the token, the game ended. So thankfully, I mean, I think I would have survived to turn 7, but it's always best. It's always best not to leave it a chance and just have the game end. So no turn 7. My 3 victory points for having this 1 token, and then 2 tokens for my 2 points for my Earth Elemental that have a token on his side, and he's got 1 point for the monolith here that has a token. Lesson learned. I didn't surge very much at all. Probably for a combination of reasons. I'm not used to it. I was using the fire elementals kind of like trolls, just charging forward. I wasn't setting up good surge angles. And their size doesn't support as well because they're kind of a wide regiment. Where did I say it? Did I not say it? Yeah, here. The idol Shovik showed the value of the small base, a very small monster, 50 by 50 square base. A lot of good flank charge and flank surge opportunities. So perhaps a greater fire elemental or two would be a better fit. I mean, I've got a lot of surge. I might as well make the best of it. And that thing does hit hard when it gets those flank charges. And the fire elementals hit just about as hard. But they're only 175 points. They're super cheap. The centaurs are a little clunky. They're big and wide. But both of them killed quite a bit. Well, the one on the right didn't kill super amount, but I didn't ask a lot of him. The one on the left killed a horde of enslaved guardians and a horde of revenants. Basically, he had help, but he did the lion's share of both of those. I guess he helped kill a troop of skeletons too. I already talked about the fire elementals. In some ways, I use trolls a lot, but trolls have crap nerves. They have to get somebody to mitigate it. Well, these guys are fearless, so they avoid that problem. They have vicious, so they hit a little bit better, and trolls always are a little underwhelming, but still not powerful enough to charge into the front of things and break them reliably, unless they're pretty weak units to begin with. I was very happy with the Earth Elementals. I only lost 1 regiment, and they were fighting pretty much nonstop. And the one that died got completely overwhelmed. And they contributed to fights. They did some wounds, but more importantly, they held up many more points of enemy units than they were worth. And that gave me a lot of board control and a lot of options on how the battle flowed. So I was very happy with those. I'm thinking maybe I can reduce my healing a little bit and slightly increase my firepower. Aside from the 2 hordes of cavalry, I don't have any real hammers. Whether I give an item to the fire elementals, I get one of those greater fire elementals or 2. If you look at it, all the way back. Let's scoot all the way back. I probably don't need the Conjurer Staff and the Shroud of the Saint. That's like 35, 40 points right there. Plus the 10 left over, plus the non-existent wizard that happens to be on here. Right away, there's a decent number of points. Let's say I swap out a horde of fire elementals, which is 220 points, I think, for a greater fire elemental. Or I drop, even though I love them, I don't know if I necessarily need 4 of them. And if I drop a regiment and a horde, I'm getting close to the point where I could have 2 greater fire elementals, and maybe I could, for the remaining 2 hordes here, give them a couple items to give them a little bit more firepower. I don't know. A couple options. I think it's overall, it went pretty much as I expected. I'm pretty happy with how it went, how the army functioned. It's general. Me needs a little bit more work to maximize it. There's a few tweaks here and there I think I'll make, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with Force of Nature at this point. And I think, well, we'll see. My next battle is going to be against another player I've played before, and I also played in the tournament, who's got typically a kind of a shooty high elf, normal elf list that I've had trouble with. And when I was thinking my army list here through, his army was one of the ones I primarily had in mind. A lot of shooty individuals, either magic or like archers, a couple Glade Stalker units with regular ranged attacks, and then some cavalry, some heavy cavalry, and some Dragon Riders. So he's got ranged, and he's got some Alpha Strike elements. And the hope was between the tough Earth Elementals, the Surge, and the healing, I can absorb the range attack. I can either absorb or not lose very much in an Alpha Strike. He can't outflank me because of the Surge, and I can hit back and kill him. We'll see how it goes next battle report. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.